Overthinking Baseball Cards. I'm Dave. That is Jason at Contrarian Cards. And we are excited to be back here. This time we're going to be talking a lot about the beauty of cards and cards that we like. Cards that, regardless of who the player is, regardless of what their stats are, we're just going to be talking about the cards that are attractive visually, design-wise. I'm not a graphic designer. I just know what I like. And we thought it'd be a nice episode to really appreciate certain types of cards that stand out just for what they look like, that, little pieces of artwork. But before we get to that, we always start an episode with a question in which one of us brings a question or brings a topic or an idea that the other doesn't know is coming. So we'll start there. And this time, Jason, you've got the topic. Great to see you.
Yeah, welcome back, Dave. Good to see you again. Happy to be here. All right, so for the leadoff this week, I thought it'd be fun to talk about the postseason. We are right in the middle of it. Just for context, we're in about the middle of the divisional series. So we've got a couple teams up 2-0. The Mariners and the Tigers are tied 1-1. So that's where we're at for anybody listening. So anything we say, obviously, that's kind of timeline wise. But my question, or just sort of bigger topic, is how does the MLB baseball postseason impact or not impact your collecting of cards? It doesn't necessarily have to be this current postseason. It could be from when you were a kid, your Cardinals fandom, just historically, even like before you were born, looking back on the playoffs and the playoff performances and that type of thing. Just I'll let you take that any way you want to go. And just how does the postseason impact your card collecting?
That's such an interesting question. I think it depends a little bit on if we're talking nostalgia or the current players. If it's the current players, it doesn't have a whole lot effect, except that it maybe encourages or boosts players who I already care about, and I want them to do well. And I worry, what would their legacies be if they don't perform well? Sort of what was kept happening to Clayton Kershaw, maybe the first 12, 13 years of his career, where, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Cardinals fan, but the Cardinals always roughed him up every series. It became like a talking point. It became a thing. And from that perspective, even though I don't collect Kershaw cards, I remember being a little bit concerned that was how he was going to be remembered. It's a little bit different, I think, when it's the nostalgia card. So when I go back to thinking about the playoffs when I was a kid, it's almost exclusively Cardinals because that's who I cared about. And I think about moments. I think about, Ozzie Smith's home run from the 1985 NLCS off Tom Niedenfuer. And the game before that, Jack Clark had went off Tom Niedenfuer. So, that will make me want to go back and get an 85 Ozzie Smith Topps card, an 85 Jack Clark, and just throw it in a binder, but then have Tom Niedenfuer between that, So I think about it that way. There's just so much less pressure with players who are retired because you know that they are who they are. And people will sometimes say like, a retired player can't blow out their knee. Like, no, but they can be arrested or something. Right. But the odds of anything changing legacy wise are just so slim. So I'm much more willing to go for quote unquote common type cards because it just brings back wonderful memories. Whereas with modern cards, modern players, I feel like there's just so much more at stake for them. And I think it's important to remember that they're actual people, but there's so much more at stake for them personally, professionally, but also in terms of what it could mean for their cards. And the only really active player that I have cards of these days is Ohtani. I think he's pretty much cemented, where he is at this point. There's a better than 50-50 chance he'll be getting his fourth MVP this year. So that's great. He's struck out a lot so far in the NLDS, but he also pitched well, which is good to see. So how about you? How do you think of the playoffs and collecting?
Yeah, you hit on kind of a lot of the things I was thinking about too. I think Vlad's an interesting one right now, just because I like Vlad, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Just hit a grand slam the other day, and He's a guy that I was kind of thinking of, like, as this postseason started. I was like, he has a lot to gain. Not necessarily in terms of like financial whatever, but legacy wise, because he's a guy that's like, I mean, if you look at him next to like Juan Soto, they're the same age, but Juan Soto just demolishes him stat wise. Like Soto's at like 42 career WAR and Vlad's at like 20. So there's a big discrepancy there. But I think Vlad's the type of guy, like with a big postseason, that can sort of really like take kind of that next step hobby wise, like at least for me. And there's a lot of Vlad cards and we're going to talk about design today, that I think are just really beautiful. And to be honest, like I've thought about it like a little bit these last couple of days. I'm like, man, this would be a perfect time to grab one of those Vladdy cards that I've wanted. And I think I would be collecting it for the memory of like my experience with this current postseason more than actually like, oh, I really want a Vlad card. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'm lying to myself a little bit. I'm not sure, but then I think about it. I'm like, okay, if the Yankees somehow come back and win the next 3 games, like how am I going to feel? Am I going to really treasure that memory then? You know what I mean? So it's a little bit of that. And then historically, like you were talking about, I like that component of it too. I ended up buying that Reggie Jackson card, the 78 that we talked about in our draft or whatever. Just because I think that card is just a perfect, snapshot of that postseason, of a historical moment, Mr. October. Yeah. So, and then, with guys like Otani, like you said, I'm pretty well invested emotionally in him and in Mookie and, in that. So those are more just like, it's fun to watch it play out because it builds your connection further with cards you already have. Watching Otani pitch in the postseason was just unlike almost anything I've ever really felt, like excitement wise and just nerves wise. I mean, he's been pretty rough at the plate so far, but just even just regardless, just seeing him, strike out 9 guys or whatever it was, and in the postseason was wild. So it's got me thinking about that, like 2025 Topps flagship card of his first Dodgers pitching card. And there's a couple examples of that I'm kind of curious about and interested in. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm at with it. To me, it's a compliment to the collecting. If the Dodgers, get bounced out, I'm not going to feel any worse about my cards, or, if Vladdy wins the World Series, I'm not going to like rush out there and buy every card or whatever, but it would be nice to, represent that collecting wise with a card or two if the price is right and all that sort of thing. So I think it's fun though. I love the baseball playoffs, all the tension. Definitely just a blast. So yeah.
There's just something about Toronto
Mm-hmm.
when their team is good.
Yeah.
I think when I went back and I watched Vlad's Grand Slam, I kept backing it up just to listen to the crowd when he hit it. It was incredible. And I would close my eyes and listen to it. And you don't hear that a lot. And one of the other times I remember hearing that again was Toronto, when Jose Bautista, did the bat flip.
Yep.
It makes you wish that, it makes you glad, I should say, that Toronto is back in contention in the postseason, because they have such a good home crowd when they are going.
The Mariners and the Blue Jays would be a cool ALCS. The Tigers, like I think, again, like kind of everything I said about Vlad, I think Skubal already has. I mean, Tarek Skubal is phenomenal. I mean, he's going to go back-to-back Cy Young, I would imagine, and he's already had a couple of great performances in this postseason. If the Tigers keep going, he'd be another guy that really, just like collecting wise, I would really want represented more heavily in my modern, baseball card collection. But yeah, environment wise, I think Toronto and Seattle would be fantastic. And then on the National League side, obviously, I'm going for the Dodgers, but you got Milwaukee and Chicago. I would prefer the Cubs to make it. Just, I mean, no offense to the Brewers or Brewers fans or anything like that, but I just think it'd be cool to see NLCS games at Wrigley again. But yeah, I think that's an underrated thing too, is like the atmosphere, like the ballpark atmosphere. Like it was, I was happy to see the I mean, it's not the same anymore because Yankee Stadium's not Yankee Stadium anymore. But yeah, I don't know. I think that matters though, just the environment. Like again, no offense to like Houston, but I'm I don't want to see another World Series in Houston or Arizona anytime. Just you just I don't know. It's just the park matters to me, and it's totally subjective, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm excited now to get to the next topic. I mean, the topic, right? The reason that we're here this month, which is to talk about the art of cards. And so I've got 4 or 5 different sort of groupings or genres. That's how I did it. You and I did this differently, which is, I think, one of the real attractions of doing this. I like to see how you think about it. And I like, the idea that our listeners can see, and our watchers can see different ways of thinking about the visual side. So the cards that I want to show first, they all come from one set. It's a modern set, and it's one that I would have felt negligent if we didn't include. It's not one that anybody is going to find as being obscure. I'm going to call it up, and they're going to say, "Yeah, of course you're including that." But it's 2020 Stadium Club, just maybe the all-time Stadium Club set in which almost seemed like every picture, every moment was intentional. So I have got 4 of them that I want to show here first. Okay. So the first one here I'm going to show is, start with Nolan Arenado's.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So this is Arenado's, in which, he's hitting, he's blasting a ball, but you see him looking back at himself, right? So the way that the photographer framed this image and made this image, with, in a sense, Arenado hitting it out toward himself. The catcher, the umpire, Arenado, the shortstop off in the distance, they're all just watching it. Right? Everyone's going the same way. There's a lot of action in this photo. I like to think of photos as being, as verbs. And when they're doing something, as much as I love, profile pics, as much as I love those types of images, when a really good action shot, which is hard to get, is beautiful. So here's one. Let me pull up another one now. Oops.
I like the texture on that. That was the Chrome version that you showed, and it's got that sort of those little dots on there, that same sort of pattern that they used on 2020 Ginter Chrome, and I think that adds a lot to the card as well, especially if you get nice parallels and whatnot.
Yeah, 100%. Here's another one. This is Paul Goldschmidt's from 2020.
Oh, that's sick.
This is the gold. This is the gold minted version.
Oh wow, I've never seen that card before.
Mm-hmm. And there are so many cards in the past that try to, when they're trying to capture part of St. Louis, of course they'll put the arch into it. It's one thing. It's behind the stadium. It was also behind Old Busch Stadium, so it was there as well. But I think this is the best one I've ever seen in terms of capturing the arch. Goldschmidt just rounding third.
That's cool. I love the arch. I'm from the Midwest too, and I've always had a fascination with. I think it was because Nelly was really cool when I was a kid, and I was I always thought there was a phase there in high school where everybody was obsessed with St. Louis, and yeah, that's a sick card, man. I really like that. I'd like to see some more arch cards. Maybe let's kind of make a note of that for sometime in the future. I'd like to see you bring some more of those.
Sure, I've got an entire page of my binder devoted to arch cards. Of course, there's this famous one now of Ohtani.
Yes, I have seen this one.
Yeah, and this has become one of his more popular non-rookie cards, both the auto version and the non-auto version, like this one. So many of his batting pictures, so many of his batting cards seem the same.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he's waiting to swing, or he's following up with a swing, and to get it from this angle, thank you, to whoever one took the picture, and then 2 decided to go with the picture because it gave us something different. I don't think I realized how his knees went in so much.
Yeah, that's the first thing I kind of look at too, beyond just the fact that it's like an overhead shot.
Yeah.
That is neat. It must be at like more of an active part of the swing.
Must be, and the amount of torque that he must be
Mhm.
putting onto his joints is I can't imagine. Okay, and then I have one last card from 2020, and that is the Bryce Harper SSP.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one. That's a great one.
Yeah, and this one, if we'll run you raw now, anywhere from like 800 to 1200.
Is his hair? His hair is pretty long in that one, isn't it?
I
Like,
think so.
is that his hair? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it back there. And
How much raw would that cost? You said
last one went for 880, I think.
Holy moly! Okay.
And that again, that was 3, 4, 5 months ago. They don't come up often. I don't own this card. The only one that I own in some form is the Goldschmidt.
He looks like a cross between Seth Rollins and Alec Boehm in this card. That's a cool one though. That's really cool, man. I would like to get a copy of this.
Yeah, it's a fantastic card. And there's a card I'm going to show at the very end that is similar to this, but in terms of how it's framed, but not this card. So that's it. Those are my 2020 Stadium Clubs.
Nice. Well, photography is obviously highlighted there, and just the uniqueness of it. I mean, you have the overhead on the Otani, you've got the big background prominent on the Harper, same with the Goldschmidt with the local landmark, and then with the Arenado, you got like sort of it's more of it's just focused on the moment, which is so each card has sort of a different element represented. Like Otani's, the first thing I see with the Otani is Otani. The Harper, it's the background, the Phillies background. The Goldschmidt, you're directed sort of towards the landmark and the cityscape. And then with the Arenado, it's more about what's actually happening at that moment, which is cool. So within each card, you have some sort of different element kind of prominent. And I think that's really cool. So yeah, those are all neat. Yeah, Stadium Club, it's always just probably going to be top of the list as it relates to photography. Even when we were, kids in the 90s and those sets, it was just kind of mind blowing. You felt like you were holding something really special back then. Like I always think about like the Frank Thomas and the Griffey from those early 90s sets. And they weren't like, mind blowing images, but it was so different. So
there was that wonderful Griffey. It's somewhere between 97 and 99. I'm not sure which year it is, but he's diving for a while. And it really just captures who he was as a fielder. I always wondered why Stadium Club wasn't more popular. And I think the reason why is because Topps did a lot of their fancy things with other sets. So they tried to let the photography speak for itself. But in terms of developing things like gold refractors and the low numbers and red X fractors, they never did that with Stadium Club. They tried to present that as an artist's set. And I'm glad they did, because now it makes the cards more affordable for me.
I think one mistake that they've made with it in the modern day is trying to apply sort of some of the stuff that works in flagship and Chrome to that brand where it doesn't really translate for me. Like I like Stadium Club just for the beautiful imagery. I wish they would focus more on like accentuating that within their like sort of manufactured rarity. I don't know how exactly, but maybe it's a different type of parallel or a different type of bordering or something like that really puts the emphasis on the photo rather than just laying a pattern over the top, because to me that's always just felt out of place. Like I would rather just see a nice clean photograph with maybe some sort of nice touch that differentiates it from the base. But yeah, I mean, it's because Stadium Club, it's all about the photography, so I don't think you want to clutter that up too much with some of the parallels and such, but yeah, it's interesting to think about. Okay. So you went modern, I'll go vintage just so we have a nice back and forth. I just quick apologies to everybody. I'm sick, so you're going to hear me like sniffling. And if I sound a bit winded or whatever, it's just got sinus stuff going on. So, okay, let's talk about, let's just talk about the 50s. Cause I think it's important. If you're talking about design and you're talking about vintage, talking about the cards from 53 through 56, could you pull up the 55 Harmon Killebrew, Dave? And I'll kind of talk. So I ran a poll on my Instagram within the past couple of weeks, and I showed an example of 53, 54, 55, and 56. And I just asked for, what's your favorite set or which set looks the best, I think is how I phrased it. The winner, I don't remember now. The winner is either 53 or 56, I think. And I don't think you can really go wrong with any of these sets. But the more I think about it, I kind of veer towards, I've sort of kind of been veering more towards 55. And I think the reason is the logo is a big part of it. Like if you look at 55 and 56 side by side, I always thought I liked 56 more, but the more I look at them like next to each other, I'm like 56 not having a logo, I think does hurt the card a bit. Or the design or just the overall appeal. If you look at the backgrounds on 56, I think that's really what sets them off. But again, the absence of the logo, the team logo, I think is kind of a big deal. And as I was thinking about design and just preparing for this episode and just thinking about why I like what I like and all that sort of stuff, I think it's just the subtle, simple things that really make a big difference within card design. If you look at this Killebrew here from 55, that Washington Senators logo in the upper left-hand corner, to me, is what really pops this card. Like, you've got the player image, you got the little, sort of artistic rendition of to the left, you got the facsimile signature, the lower third, you got the name and all that. You got a nice bright background, but the logo is what really, really sets this card off. And I think with 53, you kind of have that as well. I mean, you have the logos and they're really vibrant. If you look at the Yankees logo, Dave, if you want to transition to a 53 Mantle or a 53 Yogi Berra, the logos on those really pop as well. And it's something about just the vibrancy of the colors, just that vintage look, all of that kind of stuff. And I just think with 56, you have a very, very dynamic design. If you think about the background on the mantle with him diving into the crowd, if you think the background of the Clemente with him up against the wall with all the advertisements, but just the absence of that logo, if you see it there on the Berra from 53, just that classic Yankees logo. I mean, just that adds so much. And I just think with the 50 sets, especially that sort of that chunk there from 53 to 56, which I would think most people would say are one of those years is their favorite. Or maybe not, some people will like, and we could talk about that too, but yeah, let me pause there. Any thoughts you have on the 50s? They're sort of early to mid 50 sets, why you like one over the other, that type of thing.
Sure. I'm going to go back to the Killebrew. I'm with you. I go right to the logo, the dome of the Capitol building, the W. This isn't part of the design necessarily, but I love that it's from the Washington Nationals. Such, when they're kind of being the Senators before they went to Minnesota, then came back, and before they went to the Rangers and became, to Texas. I also like the way that the yellow fades or starts strong on the right and then fades left, or gets stronger if you go left to right. I'm not the biggest fan of autos on cards, but it's kind of nice to see that it works with this one. It's unintrusive. I like that there's two images on the front. That's sometimes reserved for the back these days if it happens. But to me, that's one of the hallmarks of the 1950s, right? Are cards with multiple photos on the front with it. I think of Jackie Robinson. I think of Hank Aaron.
Yep.
As well. I love his ears.
Yeah. Very symmetrical. Yeah.
Very symmetrical, right? And then jumping back over, to the 53 Berra, what stands out to me here isn't necessarily the logo, which I like. It's this cap.
Yeah, the cap. Yep.
Okay. It's the cap. The artist, I remember reading once about this set, and I forget who they were at this point, so apologies for people who actually put the work in on this, but I like that they chose to do it with the hat not fully on his head. It's just a little bit off. You can see where it's indented just above the top of the NY. That is clearly a spring training ballpark behind him going on there. And then, of course, there is the logo. And 53 is beautiful. I have a 53 card coming up.
Nice.
As well.
Something I've always wondered about 53, that if I would like it better if it was different, like all the lower third, it's either red or black for the name,
Yeah.
the background of the name. I always wondered if it would look better if they were different colors, but I don't know. I mean, it's just so, burned into your brain as what it is now. But something, yeah, I like nobody, of course, I like 53 tops, but um, I think I like 55 more out of these four. I don't know about, I'd have to look at some side by sides of 56 and 53 to really challenge myself to make a decision because I think it's so close. But but yeah, these sets are beautiful. I don't have any cards from these sets anymore, and eventually, I think a big part of this for me is like prioritizing. Um, when I do, buy my next vintage card, like what's it going to be? Like I want it to be something really beautiful and something I like more than everything else. So you have to kind of really think about this stuff and decide, is it going to be the 56 man, or is it going to be, I might like the Clemente more actually from 56, and we're talking strictly about design. Um, but yeah, so there's some 50s. Who knows? We'll probably cycle back to this a little bit more when Dave shares his card. So I'll pass it back to you, man. What do you got next?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to stay here. As long as we're
Okay.
here, let's just stay in this end of the pool. And I pulled five, I guess we could say 1950s or earlier cards, but I didn't go any further back than 1933 Gaudi.
Okay.
And the reason why I didn't go beyond that is because a lot of the tobacco cards are all kind of beautiful, but all sort of for the same reason, right? I mean, it's a vibrant color, or it's actually in focus. The registration's okay. So this is just going to range from 33 up through 53, and I've got five of them that I'm going to show here. So let me just start with that, and I'm going to start with the 53 card, which is the Jackie Robinson.
Nice.
I've never owned this card. I keep putting it off because it's just so easily attainable. And whenever I get to the point where I want one, I'm like, well, I can get that one later. Let me find something else. The Dodgers logo within the red diamond is an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I'm not really quite sure why they did it, but I'm glad that they did, because it's this little splash of color that really, I think, helps the card, and it ends up making the card, red, white, and blue. The Brooklyn Bridge in the background, that to me is, other than Jackie, is the highlight of this card. That Brooklyn Bridge, it sets where he is. Of course, it's before they moved to LA, obviously. Captures New York. It's a nice image of him. Not all images of Jackie Robinson are created equal.
Mm-hmm.
I find the 49 Bowman image borderline criminal. That's the red one with how he was depicted.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I do love the 47 Bond Bread portrait one, but some people don't consider that a real card, or pack pulled or whatever. I'm getting distracted. But as for the art of this card, this is a wonderful, wonderful image of Jackie in the Brooklyn Dodger setting. And to me, this was the only card that I went to when I knew I wanted to get a 53 on there. I'm looking for this card. That's it. And then I found it and found a beautiful example. Terrific. It's beautiful.
I used to own this card, and I kind of same thought process as you. I did end up selling it because I needed money for another rare modern card, and like you said, it's one that you can get. I mean, I'm sure I'll pay a lot more for it when I do get around to it than I obviously paid for it initially. But yeah, my eye goes towards the cap and the bridge on this one, just kind of like you were saying. But it's hard to beat that card.
Yep. So for the next one, I'm going to go back 1 year to 52, and I'm going to go with the 52 Bowman Stan Musial.
Oh yeah.
And I'll tell you in a moment why I like this card so much. And it might sound weird, but the card itself, like, look at the colors of that card. Look at the detail with the just sort of the folds and the wrinkles on the sleeve of his right arm, right around that elbow. You have Old Sportsman's Park in green in the background, of course, the wood bat. But the thing that I really can't get over is his fingers, especially the fingers on his left hand. And just, I am a brutal artist, but some relatives of mine are wonderful artists, and they say that hands are so hard to do. And the definition of his hands and the fingers wrapped around the bat tell me what kind of detail went into the construction and the making and the creation of this card. There's just so much care there. Plus, you have the double birds of that old 1940s and 50s Cardinal uniform. This pretty much every day of the week, I have a different Stan Musial card. I think today I've already had 2 separate favorite ones, but this is always part of the rotation. I love this card.
Yeah, that one's beautiful. I never looked at it this closely to see how detailed the hand is. And you're right. And the uniform is really kind of, and is their cap blue now?
Yeah. Sometimes on Sundays.
Okay.
Sometimes on Sundays they'll wear the blue cap with the red bill. They got away from it for about 25, 30 years and they brought it back.
Yeah. I was thinking their cap was red. Yeah. I like back then their uniforms were baggier, obviously more loose fitting. So I think you really see that as well. But you still like the way his head is like turned and he's looking off to the side. His neck looks really like muscular and strong. And yeah. So, and I love the park in the background. I never really knew like what the context of that was. If that was like a really like, well-known park or scene or whatever. I assumed it was, but yeah, you said that's Sportsman's
Park, and both the Browns and the Cardinals played there.
Oh, okay.
And then, Cardinals built old Busch Stadium, and I think it was around the early 60s or so. And then, of course, the new Busch Stadium for the last 20-ish or so years.
Nice.
All right, so 2 more cards. I'm going to go one from 51 and then one from 34. The one from 51, the Willie Mays. I've never fully understood what that is behind him. It's tethered, and if you look at the bottom right, you can see something's tethered. So maybe it's just was used for the photo that eventually became the piece of art, potentially. But man, he's just so young here.
Yeah.
Got that wonderful, black with an orange Giants cap. Again, the fingers are just wonderful. I don't know. I think I've heard before the story of this card and where the photo was taken, but I can't remember at the moment. But I just, I almost feel like a lot of Willie Mays cards aren't as good as they should be.
I agree.
I've never understood the appeal of the 53. I think it's one of his. I don't understand that card at all. I think 52 is overrated visually. I get the 52 tops. I understand the significance of that card and the significance of the set, but it's still, there aren't a lot that really capture him. This to me is his best card visually, and not just because it's the rookie, but I just think that it is just a wonderful image and from a wonderful set.
Yeah, I like these Bowman cards a lot. You said this is 51, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His rookie.
I like how small the name is. That's a small detail, but I think it just really, it's so like something I've realized about myself. I like simple designs. Like I don't like cluttered things. I don't like cluttered cards. Don't like overly complex, busy designs. I like stuff like this where it feels like you're looking at a painting. And that's just, I think, what's so cool about it. I actually like a little bit of mystery there where we don't know what that is. Like, is that a flag? Is that, like you said, just some sort of tarp they put to block out that shed on the right side there? Or like, what is that? I'm sure somebody will leave us a comment, but yeah. And the fingers, just the details there in the bat. Yeah, you're right. The Willie Mays, for, being arguably, some would say the greatest baseball player of all time. None of his Topps cards look that great until I don't like, I'm just talking about strictly appearance here. I don't like 52. I don't like 53. I don't really like 54. I like 55. Not crazy about 56. I like 57 and 58. 59.
Like 58.
Yeah, 58 is really nice. 59 is okay. But just, and then, getting into the 60s, it's kind of more of the same. Even if you look at his 61, it's like he doesn't have his cap on. And you have Maris and Mantle with these beautiful Yankee caps. And then Willie Mays, yeah. But, yeah, this is a classic. I can honestly say this is a beautiful card.
It is. So I'm going to jump back about 18 years now, 17 years. And I just want to say that if you're watching this, thank you for being here. We've got a lot more to go. If you're listening to this, we are doing our best to describe what the card looks like, and we appreciate you sticking with a very, very visual episode of Overthinking Baseball Cards. Okay, so I'm going to jump back to the 1934 Gaudi set, and I just went with an iconic one, Gehrig number 37.
Yeah.
Which to me, maybe it's the yellow, but I think of Rosie the Riveter when I see this card, which, of course, didn't come till several years later. I know he's got 2 cards in this set. He's got 2 cards from the 33 set, but this is the one that I always saw in magazines growing up. Just beautiful image, the contrast between the bright yellow background, the dark Yankees cap, the more bold blue Lou Gehrig says at the bottom. And when you can find a copy of this in which there's no snow or wrinkles or creases over his face, to me, the rest of the card, I'll just accept it at that point, because if the face is untouched, then I think this is, I've used this term before, but I don't use it all the time. If I had to pick a small handful of quote unquote the perfect baseball card, this would be a perfect baseball card.
Yeah, no arguments from me there. And this was what year? The 34, you said?
This is 34, number 37.
So is the other one where he's like just standing there batting? Is that a year before or a year after? Do you?
It's before. It's
Okay.
sort of the famous one. I know Jeremy Lee has talked about the card a lot. It's a 33 Gaudi that I think you're thinking of, that he's sort of his most well known from that 33 set.
Okay. Yeah. Shout out Dylan Double D on that one. He did a really robust video on that card when he got it, and his version was impeccable, as you would expect with from somebody like Dylan with his eye for cards.
And patience.
This one,
he's patient.
Yeah.
He waits for the right card.
Yeah, Dylan talked a lot about in. I hope we're not embarrassing him here. I'm sure we're not, but he talked a lot about the registration in the face on that one. How it's typically like that was the variable he noticed the most, was the face would blur. And I could see that with this one. I would, like you said, I'd be concerned about the snow, especially with the darkness on the hat and the shadow on his forehead. So, yeah, I would love to own a card like this someday. I think it is, gosh, Luke Gehrig too. I was talking about it in our draft, but like DiMaggio, Gehrig, like those guys are just so just beyond like even reality at this point. It seems they're just so just legendary, and their cards, man, just again, it just feels like something so historic, something so special. And it's just like the 30s too. It's like, this is the Great Depression we're talking about, and it's just that kind of stuff, that kind of beauty, and just just solid, just like well built items. These collectibles from that era are just it just makes you think like, man, this is really, really cool stuff we're looking at. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you got? You're up next.
Yeah. Okay. So we've been on vintage for a minute. Let's go back to modern. Let's look at. Okay. So a set that's really 2 sets. Let's start with 2018. Just pull up the. Can you pull up the Ohtani US1, the pitching? Doesn't really matter what version. But I want to talk about just a little bit about 2018 tops in general, just because I think this is like sort of the real transition into a new era of parallels. And like it or not, the parallel is a very significant part of baseball card collecting in this day and age. This card specifically is, I think I'm on record as saying this. This is my favorite Ohtani rookie card. Why? You got the bright red jerseys, holding the ball, getting ready to throw. I mean, just the perfect image capture for a pitcher. I like the simplicity of it. I like the logo placement. It's just, very a well-restrained design. It puts the focus on the player. Yeah. And then as it relates to the pitching, I just, again, I just think what makes him special is the fact that he's a great pitcher on top of everything else. So with all that being said, 2018 introduces the Independence Day out of 76 introduces no, it does not. It only introduces the introduction of the Independence Day is the main kind of new thing here in this year. The camo is there out of 25. The Father's Day and Mother's Day, respectively, out of 50. Pink and blue are there. You have the black parallel as well with the lineage there. The clear out of 10. The vintage stock out of 99. But this is really the first time where that whole group is together. The whole band is together here of parallels. And I think that's important because that really carries us through the next 6-7 years, basically the Ohtani and Judge years, as I like to think of them, up until 25, actually, where Topps completely, and we'll talk about that later, but it completely changed the parallel structure. So I think this is an important set design-wise, and I think it's important that it looks good. If you think about 2017 and 2016, in my opinion, those are not great designs. They're very, very busy, very just jarring. A lot of weird angles, in my opinion, and it just doesn't do it for me. But bouncing back in 2018 with a simple, clean, good design for Ohtani's rookie year, Soto's rookie year, those are big cards to get right. If you think about, if you want to, Dave, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the 2017 Aaron Judge flagship rookie. I think this is why it's important, why design is so important, because if you look at that Ohtani there, now if you compare it to what the Judge looks like for his, most widely recognized base flagship rookie card, you're going to see Aaron Judge fielding on the 2017 design. And it's not the most, eye-catching, baseball card. It's just, some people probably like it. I'm honestly just not a fan. And I think, I just think for a player of that stature and a card of that magnitude, to not have the design right, I think is just kind of unfortunate. And again, this is all subjective. So if you love this card, I truly apologize. But we can't talk about these types of things without speaking, honestly. Yeah. And I just think to nail that design in 2018 with the full parallel structure, with the Ohtani, with the Soto, I just think that's a pretty big deal design wise. And I'm just glad they got it right. So that's where I'm at with 2018. Do you have any thoughts on 2018 or 2017?
I'm going to jump back to the Ohtani again. I agree with you, and you've really won me over to the beauty of this image. The red jersey certainly helps as well. I really wish that this had been the image on his card number 700 in Series 2 or Chrome, the Chrome number 150. The crane pose with the all-white jersey it's fine, but the tightness of this photo, to get close, to zoom in, to see his face, to see how he's gripping the ball, plus just the beauty of the red jersey. This, I think you're right. I think this is, at least as terms of action shots, you know how much I love the portrait of his 2018 heritage. But as action shots go, I think you're right. This is his best rookie card.
Yeah. And I think this is, it's important. You think about the 86 Fleer. That's such a beautiful card, the Jordan. That's a perfect picture. It's just, maybe some people don't like it. I don't know, but I just think that's such a beautiful card. And when you're talking about the greatest players of all time, or of a generation, guys like Judge and Ohtani, the design is critical. It really is. And it really impacts a lot of it. This is representative of the era. When I'm thinking about modern cards I want to buy, you're sort of comparing everything to everything. What do you like most? What parallels make sense? All this sort of thing. And yeah, to me, I always come back to this card, and then I sort of, branch off from there. I don't have any of these, so I have no, I'm talking against my own self-interest here because I would like to get one, and I don't need anybody else thinking it's cool. So yeah. If you could pull up the 2019 Ohtani, just with the cup, I'll just talk about that set as well, since we're in that sort of range. But I think 2019, might be the last great modern set, in my opinion. If you look at 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023.
Jason, do you want the hitting or the pitching version?
The pitching, please.
Okay.
If you look at the 2020s, you get into this sort of rhythm where it feels very. They all sort of feel the same, and this design looks very similar to all the others as well. But I don't know, something about 2019 has really. I think it's the little dots in the background that sort of fade away, that sort of fade out as you go up in the card. When you get into the parallels for these, that you would think that's not that big of a deal. But if you're listening to this, there's these just tiny little dots about halfway up the card, and they sort of are more prominent at the bottom, and then they kind of fade away. But when you're looking at these in parallel form, those make a big difference. And I think a big thing for me with design in modern is the differentiation of the parallel from the base. And that probably sounds like a pretty obvious thing to say. But if you look at a card from 2020, all you're going to see different on a flagship parallel is the right or left side border is just going to be the color or the camo or the flag or whatever. 2019 and 2018, you have the parallel, the overlay really change the entire dynamic of the card because it's blended throughout. And I just think that's it sounds like a small thing, but when you're holding them in hand, it becomes, and you're like looking at one compared to the other, it becomes kind of a very big thing. And when we're talking about, just like these subtle differences, like whether a card is a black out of 67 or a Father's Day out of 50 or a gold out of 2018 these things become, a big deal. So I think 2019, 2018 are great sets. And after that,
21 just went off the rails.
21, I'll be completely honest. I like the Ohtani in 21 and I like the Soto, but beyond those two cards, not in the Independence Day. They really broke in 21 and 22 with those. They just did these little red stars. They did the exact same thing back-to-back years.
Yeah. I also feel like they really prioritized the design of the card more than the image of the card as well. And it really just interfered, like all those lines just protruding into the image.
Yeah. That's a problem in modern. It's like the design shouldn't take away. The design should complement, accent, and lift up the overall, appearance of the car. I used to think I liked 23. I felt like I liked 23, but the more I think about it, I don't like it quite as much because I think it's just a little bit too much. It's pulling my attention away from the rest of the card with the player image, and I know we're kind of bouncing around all over the place now, but
I gotta stop trying.
Yeah, no, it's okay. But I think it's a bigger conversation about like, is design helping or hurting? Like in 2018 and 2019, the touches are subtle. They add to the overall the way you feel about the card. When you get into 2020, 2021, the parallels are not doing. Some are doing more than others. But yeah, it gets a little bit dicier in terms of making, a selection that you feel good about in terms of which version you want to have and that type of thing. So yeah, that's some thoughts on modern. So I'll let you take it from there, Dave, if you want to go to your next round.
Sure. Okay. So the next one I'm going to has, it's a theme. It's a type of card that I really like, whether it is a vintage card or a modern card. And I'll show you what I mean by that. And so the type of cards that I really enjoy are cards of players who are in the dugout. So here we have the 2018 Topps Juan Soto update rookie. It's the SP, the hands on hips variation. And in the background, you have there's an ad in the background on the back wall of the dugout. It helps that he's got the red Under Armour underneath the blue jersey with the white W from the Washington logo. So, it's a Nationals card with patriotic colors. But just sort of the dimness of this, like the dimness of being in the dugout. I prefer the paper matte cards to the glossy chrome cards when it comes to the dugout. I thought about showing the 2017 Bowman variation of Judge in the dugout, except it looks like his eyes are closed when they're not, and it's also a little bit too glossy. It's chrome. So I really like a good paper card of someone who is in the dugout, and I got a few others here to show as well. There's Mookie. Mookie Betts is 2014 update rookie. This is the smiling variation. It's called.
Oh, that's cool.
And, it's a wonderful card. So, what do you think of these?
Yeah, I like dugout cards as well. I like anything that sort of captures the player in a more casual light. Like I like autograph signing ones too, like when they're interacting with the fans on the rails or whatever. I think those are neat. So yeah, I'm a big fan of these.
Great. So I got a couple more to show. Going back in time, you can almost imagine Mookie here just laughing it up. He's looking to his right, with Musial.
Yeah,
the 53 Bowman, Stan Musial. I think, what is this, the third Musial card already that's come up into this discussion. But this is the quintessential Musial smile. You've got just the bat rack behind him as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I love seeing that. And then just to bring it back to modern one more time here, just give me a moment, is just from last year, 2024 Ohtani's Stadium Club variation.
Oh, yeah, that's neat. I've never seen that.
Yeah, I love this. And this actually, I think it might be the locker room, not the dugout. But,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the idea holds, right? Where I like that he's in the Dodgers uniform for a little bit. It's a very relaxed moment for him. Can't tell if it's before the game, after BP. I'm not sure, but it's just a way you get to see him, where it's not a manufactured publicity moment behind a podium, which is how some of his variations are.
Yeah,
and it's not another action shot, which are fine, but it's just a very different image. So I like these behind the scenes type of images.
Yeah. Those are really cool. I think even to expand it, like even, I wish, I don't know if Topps, like, I feel like they need to get back to the way they did short prints, in SSPs like a couple years ago. Now, like with all the golden mirrors and all the, it's too, like I don't even know what they are anymore. Like, and I'm not even trying to like keep track of them. Like, when there was just like an SSSP that was like, there was 30 or 40 copies, and then an SSP, like you could kind of keep track of it. Now it's just so all over the place. That Judge is really cool. That's a really neat one.
Yes,
I like that too. Like when you can see the dugout and the crowd, like you can get both sides of it. I think that's really neat. Like to get that whole sort of picture of it. That's really cool.
Yeah. So we're looking at the 2017 Bowman Chrome Judge variation rookie. And when he's in the dugout, and I think this would be my favorite Judge rookie if his eyes were just looking up a little more. They're open, but they're looking down, so they look closed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it gets an A- instead of an A.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. That's again with design, like little things make a big difference. Like they should have. I mean, I guess that's the photograph they had. So, but it's a bummer that you just couldn't nail it. You have to nail it like sometime. I mean, when we're talking about millions of cards and all these options and whatever, it's like people are going to eventually find the ones that are at the tippy top.
Yeah.
And it just, those little things make a big difference. I agree with you. That does impact the card. The fact that he's not, even if he was like slightly turned like one way or the other, looking at something, because your eyes are drawn to that right away. Like just the way he's kind of looking at the ground or whatever, or his eyes are closed. So,
and if he was just leaning forward a smidge more, you could see the Hall of Famer Sabathia is right behind him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well. But and again, fairness to the photog, this is a split moment, right? And if he had leaned forward and his eyes had been open, like who knows, maybe Sabathia is like sneezing in the background, and then that ruins it too.
Yeah, and it's nobody's fault or anything. It's just like we as the collectors, consumers, whatever you want to call us, we have to, again, limited money, limited, space, time, all that sort of stuff. We're trying to choose, what we like the absolute most out of a sea of endless options. So it's like, yeah, we're going to be, and this is a big fun part of the hobby is we can be these amateur art critics here, because it's, it's our time and money. So we can make whatever ridiculous, rules we want. And to me, I like that. I like the hyper specific selection process. So,
All right. So do you have anything next?
yeah, let's do. Okay, let's see here. We've talked about vintage. We've talked about modern. Let's talk about the combination of both. I know you and I both like heritage. If you could pull up try to pull up like a 2022 heritage of like Bryce Harper version. Not a super big deal. But yeah, I'm a big fan of heritage. Now I'm sort of drifting more towards flagship in this sort of era of my collecting, just with the changes that they've made to the heritage parallel structure. But previously, I'm a big fan of vintage, and but I'm more of a fan of modern players. So it's like I've always appreciated having that combination of the modern players that I like on the vintage designs. So yeah, 2022 was probably my favorite year in this sort of era. I like this Harper card a lot. Typically, we're going to either see portraits or action shots. I feel like this is kind of a blend of both in a perfect sort of balance where you've got him just sort of at bat, but it's not like an awkward swing or anything like that. It's just a very statuesque look for Bryce. The design, this is the 1973 design, I believe. So the design's very simple, nice clean white border, lower third with the team name, little silhouette and position designation on the lower right. But a big thing about this one, I think, is the background. And just the backgrounds on cards in general, is we're talking about design, I think is an interesting thing. And it's something I've been thinking a little bit more about. We talked about it with the 56, with the artistic, the Clemente in front of all the advertisements, Mantle in the crowd. You talked about it with the Jackie and the Brooklyn Bridge. We talked about it with the Arenado and the Goldschmidt stadium clubs with the arch and the scoreboard, respectively. This one, there's nothing, nothing like no landmark, no famous thing in the background, no player, no whatever. It's just a very nice blurred crowd shot, and I think that adds so much of the focus on Bryce in this sort of look. And it's just, it does a lot. Like, so many cards look so boring. It's like I was looking through the entire 1972 set recently just because I wanted to see like how many cards actually look good. And I would say, about there's 700 cards in the set, 685 of them can just be like, meh. But then there's like those 5 to 10 that are just really, really just wonderful looking. And a lot of it is just like very simple things like this, where the background is very colorful, just very full. There's just nothing that like takes away from the card. It doesn't draw your eye towards any like sort of awkward little detail or anything like that. It's just a very simple baseball card that just looks very good. And that's the kind of stuff I like.
Heritage gets these right. They get them right almost every year. And of course, why wouldn't they? Because they're designs that already exist. This is your time, but I do want to pull up one card that I have because it's exactly what you're talking about. And it's coming up here in just a moment here. And that is it's another heritage card, and it's from 23, I believe, of Justin Verlander.
Oh yeah,
right. There you go again. The depth of field with the blurred crowd in the background and the windup, the focus on his eyes. I would be happy, and this will never happen because of how card companies need to make money. I would be very happy if Heritage was a short printed set with no variations. Maybe they only make 10,000 sets and that's it, because just the design itself is so beautiful. I don't need the blue sparkle or the red chrome parallel. I admit I do like the black chrome parallel. I know you like the gold ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
But just these sets on their own, I think these are my favorite base cards of all.
Yeah.
I'll jump back to your Bryce Harper there.
They're beautiful, and I've graded like just the base cards because the pops are actually quite low. I think this is just a side tangent, but I think I opened a lot of this stuff in 21 specifically. I opened quite a lot of retail, and so I had just a lot of the base, stars. I would grade them and whatnot, but they're challenging grades too because the backs are typically dark and chip quite easily. So the pop 10s on a lot of these cards are like sub 20. Like, I don't know now. I mean, because nobody thinks to grade stuff like this anyway, but to me, it's a beautiful, beautiful baseball card.
Mm-hmm.
And on the Verlander, so a free tip to anybody that likes this card. And I like this card a lot too. The Superfractor of that has been sitting on eBay for $500 for forever. And I'm pretty sure it's still there. So if there's any Justin Verlander fans out there that like this card, that want a very affordable Superfractor, you're welcome, because you can go get that. I'm not going to buy it. I've thought about buying it several times, but I just haven't. So yeah, again, I completely agree. And I wish we could get back to some of this where it's like just the actual card is the focus. It is important but like you said, it's not going to happen just because it's not, probably financially in the best interest of the manufacturer to do something like that. But I don't see why. I mean, they've completely broken this set. Like, they really, and I'm not saying that I'm not bitter, I can go buy other things. It's not a big deal, but in 25, they truly broke the identity of the product by just making it like everything else. Why would you do that? It's like you have enough things that are like everything else. Just let something maintain its integrity and whatnot. So that's my gripe there. But yeah, I mean, some people don't like this though. I think some people think that modern on vintage designs is sort of just doesn't do it for them or make sense. And I respect that. In a lot of ways, I agree, for different things, but I think heritage in baseball has enough of a legacy and a lineage to where it can kind of hold its own, in terms of, I tend to think of heritage as sort of the 1B sort of product to flagship in chrome, so it's got my respect, but yeah, some cool design elements there throughout those cards. And yeah, I'll always be a big fan.
Okay. What's next?
You go next.
Okay. So what I've got going on now is I only have one last genre here, if you will. And there are two sets that remind me of each other and how they were shot. And even though they came out 10 years apart, one of them is 1974 tops, which is why I originally captured this image of the Verlander. So let me pull up some other ones here that I have captured from that set. One of my favorite cards ever made is the 74 tops Dave Winfield. Shown here, just you have the brown block of brown with San Diego and then Padres, and it matches the lining, the collar of his jersey and part of the old San Diego hat as well. What 74 tops did is they had this wonderful blend of intentional portraits with wonderful action shots. Another one that I would put with that would be the Nolan Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Right. And this is reminiscent of the US 1 2018 Ohtani we had up before, where this is not quite as tight in, but it still allows you to see, the face. Again, the grip of the ball. You see how hard he is kicking off that back right leg,
mm-hmm.
Which he would, of course, be doing for about 25, 26 years as a professional pitcher, as Nolan Ryan would do. And this time you have the pink, which is lovely. I've never quite sure why they didn't go with red. Maybe they just couldn't get the color quite right on the printing. But they have the pink with the California and the Angels in it. Again, the blurred background with the depth of field. You can see center field going on back there. I wish I could figure out what stadium that is. I wonder if it's Kansas City. But I'm not sure for sure. The Angels definitely are on the road based on the gray uniform that Nolan Ryan is wearing. And I already showed the Verlander. So, just capturing the 74 set. Right.
Pull up if you get a chance, the 23 Otani looks exactly, the 23 Heritage Otani looks exactly like that Nolan Ryan, which is really cool because he's with the Angels at that time. It's really neat to see those side by side.
Yeah, I used to own this card.
74 Tops was great. That's a set that's really grown on me. We talked about the Seaver in my or when I picked that as one of my era draft selections last time we did a show. But yeah, I agree. 74 was it's a set that at first glance you would think it's kind of boring, but when you really start getting into some of the shots and the action shots compared.
Sorry, you're
no,
back.
you're good. Yeah, it's a great set. That Nolan Ryan was a card I was thinking about calling out too.
Here you go. Here's
yeah,
the
yeah. So you kind of got the sort of similar look there. You don't quite get the Nolan Ryan looks better because you get a little bit of the outfield wall there, and you get a little bit more of the background. But those two cards side by side are pretty neat.
Do you have any idea why with this card they don't have Los Angeles on the top?
Yeah, I did know at one point, and I think I kind of forgot because I looked into that. I think it was because is it like they're maybe it wouldn't fit, or like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, or
right?
Because on the Ryan it just says, does it say California?
Yes,
and I think that would fit, and I think maybe Los Angeles wouldn't fit, or it would look, because it's the same way on the Trout. I have this Otani card in the gold, and yeah, I kind of like, I don't know. I've heard other people say, oh, that card that's kind of lame. They left that off. I think it's kind of a neat quirk, to be honest. Just because you're like, why? What is that about? Is it like some sort of variation? But no, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and the set that this reminds me of, and the one that I'm going to throw up now to echo this is 74 Tops. Always reminds me of it was almost like an older brother or an older cousin of 84 Donruss.
Okay.
And I'll show you what I mean by that. First let's take a look at the profile. Let's go with another Padre, in this case Tony Gwynn.
Oh yeah.
Right. And 81 and 82 and 83 Donruss, I think they were just happy to be there. I think they were just happy to have a license. So many errors, low quality images. Fleer was the same way. I think we've talked before that 84 is when Donruss and also Fleer said, they rolled up their sleeves and said, all right, let's go to work. And so, you've got this image here. Again, look at the blurred background you talked about before. Again, depth of field. I love that Padres uniform, right? And then I have a couple more here to show as well, and I'll go quick on these. Similar to the Gwynn is the Ricky Henderson, right? So just a nice profile pick. And then lastly, from 1984 Donruss, to go with an action shot, we'll go with the Ryan Sandberg. Oh
yeah, what is that background all
about? I don't entirely know. Matthew, 1956 Tops guy, has talked about it before, but off the top of my head, I can't remember what it's called.
It's weird, yeah.
But whatever they were doing with the photography this year, and if I were to pull up the 84 Bill Madlock, where he's playing third base for the Pirates, it almost looks like that door in right center field of Wrigley, because they're on the road in Wrigley, is almost like right there, but it's not. It's a 250, 300 feet past them, and just whatever they were doing with photography this year, it was definitely an homage to 74 Tops and a precursor, I think, to what Stadium Club would become.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like the coolest thing to me about this card is his jersey or his uniform. Just you see the full name, and it just the way it's turned is pretty cool. You don't get that a lot.
And the other number 23 from Chicago.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's it. So, do you have any others?
Yeah, I got all sorts of stuff. So let's see here. My notes. We talked about the 50s, talked about some 70s stuff, talked about modern 2018, 2019. Let me see here. What about why don't you pull up the 1999 Topps Chrome Griffey or Topps Griffey? It doesn't matter. Just the paper or the chrome or the refractor. I think this was interesting because I am getting more and more interested in just early refractors from Topps Chrome,
Oof.
and the Griffey from '96, or excuse me, '99. I thought was just probably one of the most beautiful baseball cards I've ever seen. Um, and that set was really nice too, and it stood apart kind of from some of the years that surrounded it. Um, it's just a big image focus. We'll see it here in a second, but
I was having trouble finding a
no, you're
good
good.
copy, but I found one.
Yeah, there's not a lot of bordering. It's just really, I think what kind of set it off for me was just, I mean, obviously, it's just like the Sandberg kind of made me think of it because you see Griffey from the back and you see his full name in the 24 there. He's hitting, just he's finishing a swing, but you see him completely rotated. And then on the left, like right, running up and down vertically on the card is the team name, the Seattle Mariners, right across his bat. And then the only other text or whatever on the card is just the name and the Topps Chrome logo in the lower right. But the background is impressive on this card. The foreground is impressive on this card with the dirt and the base there. You got the catcher. This, I would say, borderline perfect card. And it's expensive. Like the refractor is very, like I was following an auction of this a couple weeks ago, and it was just, it just got, I mean, it's not a card I'm going to pay like $1,000 for, but man, it's really impressive. And if you see these in hand, you know how shiny they are. It's hard to really capture that in an image, but yeah. And then some other great cards from the set, like the Mariano Rivera is fantastic. The Jeter is cool. I mean, pretty much pick your star from 1999 Topps. Like this was a great year. And it's a year I'd never really thought about that much just because I was collecting football at the time. I was just way more of a football fan at the time relative to baseball as a sport broadly. So it's just, I just didn't have a lot of familiarity with it. But now it's a set I've really been kind of looking at. Yeah. See, and if you look at Mariano in this one, he's kind of just running. He's not like in the middle of a pitch. Like I went on ComC and I just typed in Topps Mariano Rivera. I looked at every Topps card he has, and they're almost all the same. Like almost all the same type of image. But this one really was just stood out as like the only one like this. And I think that's cool. Like when a set differentiates from its sort of contemporaries, like if you think about, okay, 53, 54, 55, 56, and then 57, totally different, same thing in like, but now it's like in 2020, it's like 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, 20, they're all kind of the same. So yeah, I think that's,
I would maybe argue that 2010 through 2017 Topps, I was all pretty similar with some adjustments here and there.
20, yeah.
And then 18, really was something different.
Yeah. So I wrote down like 2013 and 2015 as sets I really like. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of hate 2016 and 17, and then I like 2018 and 2019 a lot.
I like 14. I like 14 as well.
Yeah, 14. Yeah, I'm trying to think who was. Oh yeah, that's the Betts year. Yeah, those are nice. So I don't know. I think that design relative to the other designs close to it is a really interesting kind of component because you see that a lot too. It's like people say, "Oh, the Mahomes year," or the whatever. Like in baseball, I think of it as the Ohtani. The 2018 is always going to be the Ohtani and Soto year again, and I just think that's why it's so unfortunate about 17 and Judge. But I don't know. So yeah, what do you think about that? Like sets relative to the ones like either next to them or like in close proximity. Like you like 57, you like the 57 Hank, like relative to those colored artistic cards.
I do. I like the 57 Topps. I like 58, and they're very different. 57, mm-hmm. Of course, brings in those amazing photographs, which somehow is really eerily similar to 86 Fleer Update. I don't know what happened with 86 Fleer Update, but it's very similar to 57 Topps. But then 58, even though 57 was different, they just tore it up again.
Yeah.
And they started putting up all the, the green background and the yellow background, all these different backgrounds. They just went full splash color. I like the idea of reimagining it year to year and thinking
Yeah.
of a year as being like its own moment in time, design wise. Because frankly, if I try to picture 2020, I'll call it 2020. I know you like 2020, but if I picture 2020 through 2023,
Yeah.
I can't tell one from the other.
Yeah, that exactly. Why? I wonder why. Like, is it? It's weird to me. Like, wouldn't you want to do something different every year? But they all look pretty similar. I agree. Like, um, yeah. So, I mean, I guess if you got a good thing going, like in the 50s, and then 57, that's a pretty bold shift, but it
Mhm.
worked. Maybe they're afraid of it not working if they do try to kind of go out on a limb a little bit and do something really different. But like to me, like this 99 set was different and it totally worked. Like these are beautiful cards.
I just love how understated the fonts are and
Yeah.
the size of the type as well. I mean, New York Yankees is just so small at the bottom of the Mariano card, and it just has his name. It's it's all, of course, block type, all capital letters with a black outline, but it's not huge at all. It is a very, what I think the term I would use for this set is classy. It is a
It is
very
classy.
classy set. Mhm.
Yeah, I like designs like that. I think it just goes to show it's like you don't have to do too much if you get the core components right. The photography, the background, they don't even have team logos on this card, but they don't need them because you can see the Yankee logo is prominently focused on two different locations here, and you can see it very nicely on the uniform. If you get that part right, you're good. So yeah, I think. Yeah, it's interesting to look back and you can kind of see year to year, like, oh, they did way too much with that, or this was just perfect. Like they just left it. They didn't force it. It's like, if I'm a big fan of British Bake Off, and Paul Hollywood always says, this is style over substance. It's like, if you try too hard, you got to get the substance right. You have to have the core fundamentals of, the bread or the cake or whatever you're trying to make, or in this case, baseball card correct. Otherwise nothing's going to work.
100%. Yeah, I
So,
agree with that. So I don't know what you have. I only have one card left to show. Where are you with this?
I just have ideas left. I don't have any. You can do your card next because I don't have any specific call outs to make.
So this card, as you could tell with my other ones, I always had these groups and these themes and these genres that I was going for, and I didn't for this last one. The last card that I'm going to show just came out last year, and to me, it is so far. I don't think everyone has their own idea, but for me, it's in the running for the most eye-appealing card of the decade. Of course, we still have half the decade to go. But as I pull it up here,
You're going to show the most eye-appealing card of this decade, the 2020s.
yes, in my opinion, so far.
Is it a Topps flagship card?
It is not.
Okay.
It's a Stadium Club card.
Okay.
And it's 2024. It's Lawrence Butler's 2024 Stadium Club rookie.
I was going to try to guess, but I don't think
I'm sorry. I should.
It's okay. No, I would have never been able. That's incredible, though.
Yeah. So this is, if you're listening, this is Stadium Club. It's Lawrence Butler's rookie, and he is catching a ball in the outfield, and right behind him is a mural or some sort of painting of Rickey Henderson running. It's incredible. Congratulations to the photographer on getting the image, knowing exactly how to crop this thing.
That's wild.
Yep. And even Butler's body can be the L, in addition to the word field. What a baseball card.
Yeah. That's so cool because I've literally never seen this card ever. So, that's just so wild. That's the great thing about sometimes it can be kind of a bummer, just like how many sets there are and how many whatever and but it is cool though that we can discover new things, even being in the midst of this as deep as we are, that we can see new cards that we've never seen before on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, that's really, really impressive photograph.
All right. If you have hung with us for this long, thank you. We hope you enjoyed looking at some pictures of some baseball cards. I know we certainly did. Jason, any last words?
No, just appreciate everybody. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. That really helps us. We're still, a newer channel, and appreciate all the comments, and we read them all, and all the shares on Instagram is really appreciated. Appreciate all the chat post show. Enjoy getting to interact with everybody. So hope everybody enjoys the rest of the postseason, and we'll see you next month.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
All right, later, everybody.